There's a story. There's a story. There's a story. There's a story. There's a story about. It happened actually in Japan 100 years ago or so. There was a woman, saint or awakened being, part of the Buddhist tradition, and many people would come and see her, ask for advice. And one day a man came to her and said, "Please help me. My life is in a terrible mess. I'm continuously stressed. I don't like the way I deal with people. I'm a selfish jerk and I just don't want to carry on being like that, and I'm irritated all the time." I'm irritated all the time. What can I do to find inner peace? And she said, "Okay, I will give you a little something for you to practice." She said, "Every morning and every evening, and whenever anything happens, say these words: thanks for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever." So the man said, "Oh, thank you so much. I'm sure that'll be very helpful." He went off, and a year later he came back and said, "It's not working, what you've given me. I've been saying it all the time, and nothing has changed in my life. I've said it every morning, every evening, several times during the day. It's not working." And so she looked at him and said, "Thanks for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever." And at that moment, he awakened, and suddenly joy arose in him. He could suddenly see the deeper truth in it. He had said the words, but he had not lived them. The second time he came to her, he realize that whatever the situation is, if you could find complete acceptance of the situation internally, thanks for everything, I have no complaint whatsoever, immediately you break identification. And here gives an identification with the thinking mind. Because if you have no complaint whatsoever in this moment, there isn't that much to think about anymore. And if you observe your mind, you will see that a large part of your mind's activity is complaining, one form or another, about yourself, about where you are, about who you are with, about other people, and of course then you complain about other people you've never even met, but you see them on television. And there's a lot to complain about there. And that keeps the mind going. And it feels the more it can. But complaining also implies opposition. It opposes something or someone. I'm talking about the habitual human mind. It's compulsiveness, the compulsive Friesland Morgensen, Friesland Morgen. It's compulsive, man. Friesland Morgen. It's compulsiveness, the compulsive mental noise. Thrives on opposition. So basically, and here we come to a very deep structure of the human mind, which ultimately explains why the world is in such a mess. And why there's so much violence and so on. It comes back to very simple things which are to do with the structure of the human mind. When you complain, you make something or someone basically into an opponent or an enemy. An opponent or an enemy. You don't like where you are, so you are against it, so the traffic jam in which you are stuck becomes the enemy. And when you watch television, some stations thrive on opposition. They have nothing else to offer. I'm against it. reality, I'm against it. Should be abolished. Death, I'm against it. You can march. No to death. So we observe what we are here for is not only to become aware of the structure of the human mind, but to, by becoming aware, to step out of it. And that really is the most important thing in your life. And you might say, how do you know what's the most important thing in my life? I know that because it is that transcends the merely personal in your life. The worst prison is to be trapped in the merely personal story of your life, with the transcendent dimension entirely missing from your life. That is a terrible prison, no matter how polished your personal life is. For most people, their personal life, which I sometimes call life situation, consists, if they had to talk about it, many people, 70 to 80% would be problems that they talk about. What's your life situation? Well, let me tell you. And you would get a new enumeration of problems that I have in my life. It's quite normal. But it's quite normal. But most people don't realize that it's quite normal. They think I have the most problems and all these people are okay. They're not. No, they're not. And the people you read about in the magazines, they look okay because the magazine is glossy. But if you look more deeply, you can see they are full of problems too. There's no denying that life is challenging. But do the challenges of life have to become a burden? And do the challenges of life have to make up your very sense of identity, of who you are? Is there nothing else? So you're trapped in this little me story. Here on team. So you're trapped. So you're trapped in this little me story. Thinking about it all the time. Me. Him. Me. Him. Me. Him. Me. It's going to happen to me. It's going to happen to me. Sometimes the me identifies with somebody else and says, this is my, such and that, my son, my, this, my, that, it's part of me, and you can worry about him or her. I'm so worried about my son, my, he has got such problems, she has. And that's the story. Heroes is and that's the story. Trapped in whether it's a little personal, the personal, confined, this prison, whether it's a sordid little thing, or whether it is a glamorous big thing that people write about in the newspapers, it ultimately comes to the same thing. It's to be trapped in a little prison of the personal self. Personal self for less than self. Personal self for less than self for self that is never satisfied for very long. Very briefly perhaps. The personal self that is looking for all kinds of completion and fulfillment in all the wrong places. It looks for completion of completion, by the way, means you might recognize it when I talk about it. Completion means to finally feel a sense of, basically, to feel at home in the world where you are, rooted in life, in being, connected with something secure and deep. That cannot be threatened by the changing circumstances of life. That's what I mean by completion. And that is the longing of everybody, is to find something that gives you that sense of, deep sense of aliveness and being, of being yourself fully. Everybody wants that. I want to be fully myself, but I haven't quite arrived yet. How can I be fully myself? And even people who are very successful unless the transcendent dimension has opened in their lives, they are still also dissatisfied. And longing that sense of being fully yourself, for many of them, hasn't arrived yet either. In fact, some of them, those who have made it in the eyes of the world, whether they made it on Wall Street or wherever they make it, become even more dissatisfied. Because once you have everything, you can't even mentally project yourself into some situation where you have everything you want, because you already have everything you want. And where do you go from there? So there's that longing in everybody to arrive at that and the mind looks for it, and the mind-made self, the egoic entity that consists of memories and expectations and things that you identify with, give you your sense of self-identity. This becomes an entity that is a mental entity that people carry around, that is a substitute, not an ultimately real sense of self, but that's what most people have only. So that you're stuck with that in the absence of the transcendent dimension. You're stuck with the little self. And whatever it identifies with, identify means it makes it part of the me structure. It could be a little thing like my car, my house, my clothes, my money, my knowledge that I've accumulated, which is so much greater than most people's knowledge. The way I look. Some people have that. If you're lucky enough to have good looks, you can identify with that, because then you compare yourself through the structure of thinking to others, and you can feel superior and strengthened in your sense of self. I look so much better than these people. My figure, my whatever it is. And if you don't have good looks, you have to find something else. Okay, I mean, you can look for finances, good looks, possessions, status, what other people think of you, and if you can't find any of those, knowledge, then you can still find an identification with the self-image of somebody who's been hard done by life and treated unfairly by life and God. And basically, your sense of specialness becomes you're a very special victim of life. So you have an identification with the thought structure of victim, and you feel very special, and you can complain a lot every day. About other people, how awful they all are, what your parents did to you. If you had had different parents, your life might have worked out okay, but with parents like that, what can you do? So some egoic entities live on complaining alone. If you have nothing else, you can still complain about everybody else. And that gives you an enhanced, illusory sense of self. Look at all these people, these Wall Street guys making billions. I hate them. You can talk about them, Mr. Don't want to mention any names. I've been reading the New York Times. So that is the unsatisfied entity, mind-made entity that for most people is their reality and their identity. And that's what you see in most movies. Some movies have a transcendent dimension. It's wonderful when it comes. So in many movies, all you see is how people are trapped in their little personal self. No way out. No way out. The self. No way out. Self-generated problems, and then you can watch and see, oh yeah, that's my life. Feel a little bit better. Feel a little bit better. I always look in movies for occasionally you find it, there's a hint of the transcendent dimension. In one way or another. And it's wonderful to see. But the important question is whether the transcendent dimension has entered your life. And when I use that term, transcendent dimension, people will immediately think in terms of some new belief that you adopt. Say, okay, I believe that there is such a thing as a transcendent dimension. What do you believe? What do you believe? The others. I don't think there's a transcendent dimension. What? You're denying the transcendent dimension? No, that's not it. It is not some new thing that you believe in and talk about. The transcendent dimension has to be encountered, at first perhaps glimpsed, and then it has to become the permanent background to your entire life experience.
Too late.
Sleep is a very mysterious subject. Scientific students of sleep are not yet at all sure what sleep is. Apparently people need it, but nobody really knows why they need it from a strictly scientific point of view. And we apparently need to dream in sleep also. People who are deprived of dreams get very, very restless and unhappy. But we're not quite sure why we need dreaming. I mean, we've got all sorts of theories, the Freudians and the Jungians and so on. They think they know why we need to dream, but it hasn't been really rigorously established scientifically why we do. Why we need to sleep. But from a naive point of view, you can say, of course I need to sleep. Because after I've had a whole day of business and friends and work and so on, it's too much. There's too much input. I want to digest it. While I'm digesting it, I don't want any more input. I don't want any more information. So I want to be turned off. That's, one of those simple common sense things that everybody knows, but has not yet been fully explained.